Friday, the 5th of March. Hello, February, I beg your pardon. Welcome to the program, everyone. This is first weekend in the new month. So this is effectively how we wrap up the business and the market for the first week as we start the second quarter of the year. I am Bosin Namafai. Of course, it's the season of the budget. And when this budgetary cycle comes through, you find quite a lot of revelations and numbers on the street regarding the state of the country's affairs. So let's start with that, where the Debt Office Director General Patience Oniha outlined the country's headline debts now at 24.39 trillion naira. According to our presentation, that's now higher by 2.66 trillion over the last 1 year. And that figure includes the 331.12 billion naira promissory notes that the federal government issued in December last year to pay for state governments to pay salaries and, of course, some of the arrears owed to oil marketers in terms of oil imports and subsidy payments. Meantime, Patience Oniha hinted of plans by Nigeria to issue the country's first 30-year naira bond. That's going to be the longest tenured instrument in our debt market. So what's the government trying to do? Pull long-term investors into the market, both internally and externally, and extend the country's debt maturity profile. So you're going to see the yield curve extending much longer than what we currently have. This is going to be historic, and that's part of the borrowing plans of the current administration and looking to get investors into the deep end of the debt market and try to lift some of the pressure from short-term treasuries and naira bonds. All that discussion will be a little bit later in the days ahead when we have more details on that. Meantime, the Debt Office, Oniha says, the Buhari's administration will be borrowing 1.6 trillion naira to fund budget 2019, which, of course, is still in the works at the National Assembly. The Senate says the budget should be passed by the 16th. That's the 2019 budget. Budget 2018 is still running until the end of May, at least early June, as it were. That's the state of Nigeria's budget. In particular, the debt market, the debt portfolio of the Nigerian government as we speak. So yesterday, the central bank top officials and CEOs of all banks met here in Lagos. Broad Street all clogged with those folks having a very long meeting, the first in this quarter. The committee therefore revealed plans by the central bank to push additional 200 billion naira intervention fund of a 10-year tenor and single interest rate into those who are interested in, listen, palm oil production, cocoa production, sesame seed production, shea butter, and cashew. Now, if you're interested in that business, the Bankers Committee and the Central Bank says there's 200 billion naira, which they'll be giving you at a 10-year repayment period at a single digit if you will produce these agri-products and export them, create jobs locally, and fetch foreign exchange. Meantime, the Deputy Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ike Kachiku, has been lamenting the poor state of Nigeria's oil and gas industry. That's the man who spent most of his private life in the private oil and gas sector and now in government, says Nigeria's oil and gas industry is underdeveloped. That's coming straight from the horse's mouth. According to Dr. Kachiku, he says something is fundamentally wrong in what Nigeria is doing because oil is becoming a degenerating asset. A few questions Dr. Kachiku posed at a conference he spoke at yesterday. We just thought only two of them will suffice. And this was what we call a rhetorical question. And he asked, why have we not been able to lead investors and producers that are operating across Africa into Nigeria? Question number two, why are we today facing the threat of divestment by some multinationals? ExxonMobil is planning to sell about $3,000 billion of our assets in Nigeria. So, the Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister of Petroleum Resources thinks something is wrong with what we are doing in the oil sector. If anyone should know, he knows. Meantime, energy trading company Oando Nigeria PLC has announced the sale of 25% equity in Axela Limited, which is a subsidiary of the company, to Helios Investment Partners. That's bringing $41.5 million into the pockets of Oando, but that money is not going to sit down there. The company says it's going to use the $41.5 million to pay off part of the medium-term loan that the company is indebted on. That's part of the debt rescheduling program that Oando has announced for the current year, 2019. Yesterday, the share price of that company, Oando, climbed on the news that Oando is trying to clean up its debt boarding. Meantime, investment bank firm Chapel Hill Denham says its Series 4 offer of Nigeria Infrastructure Debt Fund, or NIDF, has closed and now has raised 10.6 billion naira in the latest offering. That's Series 4, or the fourth tranche of those offerings. And that brings the total NIDF debt raising to the doorstep of 30 billion naira. In the 18 months to December last year, NIDF has returned about 42% to investors. Talking about investors and the market, one of the new things on the market is what you call the green bond. So the stock exchange division head in charge of listings business has something to say about this, and he told Temple Ashaju yesterday what the stock exchange is doing in that regard. Olumide Bolumole, take a listen to him.
I mean, just to give you some background and some history to explain how this thing came to be. A little over 2 years ago, I think it was about 2017, that the Nigerian Stock Exchange, working alongside the Debt Management Office and the Ministry of Environment, came up as part of a working group to start off the conversations around green bond issuance. That led to the issuance of Nigeria's first green bond last year. Access Bank, of course, is coming to the market and has done their listing on just earlier in this week. It speaks to a growing asset class. The fact that both issues, I mean, the ones that the Nigerian government did last year and the one Access Bank did this week, have been successfully taken up by the market. And it shows that I think investors are finally getting additional assets to invest in. Indeed, what informed the conversation around green bonds and green bond issuances was a recognition that there was a pool of investment, mostly international, but to a less extent some onshore, that are looking for investments in particular projects and products that are of a sustainable nature, hence green bond issuances. So indeed, we're seeing some of that, and we expect to see some more in the future.
So we've seen a whole lot on the primary market side of it. What's the secondary market side of it like?
So it's work in progress indeed. Some of the challenges we are facing is really around market adoption. And what the exchange is doing as a market enabler is really sensitization sessions, not just on green bonds and across all the products and asset classes that we offer as an exchange. So we recently just had a fixed income session about a month ago. We've had an ETF session. It's getting the market to understand and to buy into this asset class and indeed also other asset classes is a slow burn and is a sensitization process. And we continually engage people and players and stakeholders in the market to just make sure that they understand the asset classes a little bit better, so that we can start generating some transactions on the secondary market in the same way we're seeing on the primary side.
But it looks like it's on the primary side of things that we've seen more activities. What's the secondary side of this security like?
Well, I mean, I'm aware that in the next few weeks there should be another corporate issue in the market that the exchange is working closely with all the parties involved to make sure that happens. There are a number of other institutions that are looking at I guess having a sustainable perspective on doing business, and are looking at using tapping this particular line of liquidity. So indeed, there are a few people in the pipeline that we're talking to. And our role really is to sort of handhold them through that process as much as possible. We want to make sure that both the issuer side is comfortable and aware of what they're doing, and the demand and the buyer side is also aware of the nuances of this particular asset class. But do we see some growth in this space? Certainly. Sustainability is something that I guess the entire ecosystem is understanding that is key, and it's important. And there's some data that suggests that institutions that do investments with a sustainability mindset almost outperform their peers. And I think organizations are starting to understand that we need to have a more transgenerational perspective to businesses and our approach to businesses overall. We see that for us, it was a case of, there was a problem, well, not really a problem, but there was a situation where internationally we spoke to investors that had pools of liquidity that they were deploying to other jurisdictions that Nigeria wasn't getting its fair share. And then there were investors that also, on the local side, that wanted even a diversification of asset class. So it made sense for us to come up with a framework that allows both the issuers, be it sovereign or corporate, to get diversification of the pool of investors that buys the instruments they issue, and also the investors get to move beyond the jurisdictions that they're currently investing in. And Nigeria has been placed on the map. I mean, we're very proud that Nigeria issued its first, I think, certified green bond, and we hope to do other initiatives. Green bond is just one of the things we're working on. We all hope that in the future there will be other things that we'll see an opportunity in the market that we can try as the exchange, put all the players in the room in a healthy way to develop solutions that are right and fit for purpose at that point in time.
I think it would be too early in the day to be seeing challenges around the issuance of green bonds, but on the usual side of things, do you think there are any challenges?
Well, not really. It's really just around adoption and understanding. It's a case of, in time, we will talk around. I mean, let's not forget that Nigeria's sovereign debt market, as we know it, is really not as old as we think it is. So, in time, green bonds will be just another. The way we talk about rights issues, the way we talk about IPOs, the way we talk about treasury bill issuances, it will get there in as much as we, all of us, including the exchange and all the other stakeholders, put our hands to the plow and try to make sure that things work. And of course, indeed, as time goes on, there may be some changes, some alterations, some a different kind of investments, maybe a duration elongation, maybe shorter tenors. We will see. But certainly we believe that there's scope for growth in this particular space.
Stock Exchange Divisional Head in charge of listing business, Olumide Bolumole with Temple Ashaju there.